When playing as Rosalina Luma, the way you deal with projectiles can completely make or break your neutral game in certain matchups. So in this video, we'll briefly go over the 5 different tools that you can use to deal with projectiles. Then we'll look at ways you can utilize items in the matchups where they're relevant. Lastly, we'll look at a chart of the specific methods you should use to deal with each projectile in the game. And before we get started, if you want to stay up to date on Rosalina Luma's best strategies, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. So to start things off, some of the most unique and useful ways you can punish your opponent for using certain projectiles is by blocking with Luma, and there are a few different ways you can go about this. Ideally, you'll want to block while dashing whenever possible. This allows you to punish certain projectiles around mid-range with either a grab or even a smash attack at the cost of Luma being hit. But you'll need to take into account how much end lag your opponent's move has in order to determine how close you'll need to be for your punish to be guaranteed. A dash block is done by simply dashing toward your opponent as they use their projectile, but you'll need to be aware of Luma's positioning, as dashing in the opposite direction that you're facing will cause Luma to be very close to Rosa for a short time. A way to work around this is to practice standing turnarounds before dashing, since Luma will switch sides much more quickly than when dashing backwards like this. To do this from a standing position, simply tilt your control stick to input a turnaround, then dash forward after at least 7 frames have passed. If you have trouble doing this and keep dashing instead, consider lowering your stick sensitivity. Overall, keep in mind that dash blocking is only useful in certain matchups and will only work consistently against projectiles including Samus's homing missile, Fox's lasers, Luigi's fireballs, one Falco laser, a non-fully charged Young Link arrow, any of Toon Link's arrows, Mewtwo's Shadow Ball, ZSS's Paralyzer, Diddy's charged peanut gun, Lucario's Aura Sphere, Megaman's forward smash or a single pellet, a non-fully charged Greninja Shuriken, Cloud's blade beam, one Banjo egg, Terry's Power Wave, Minmin's Dragon or Megawatt punches, and lastly Sephiroth's Shadow Flare. But keep in mind that many of these projectiles still have a chance of hitting Rosa if used in the air. You can also get in position for a dash block by lunar landing with back air, which locks Luma in front of Rosa for the full duration of Luma's back air. And although this method has more situational timing than just dashing straight in, Luma will be slightly farther in front of Rosa, allowing you to block or clank with even more projectiles if timed correctly. And keep in mind that these projectiles include the same ones that can also be blocked while walking or crawling. A walk block is functionally the same as a dash block, but with better Luma spacing and a shorter punish range, so you'll need to be a bit closer to guarantee a follow-up. You'll also want to time a dash input the moment that Luma takes the hit to maximize your punish window. Due to the way that Luma's positioned while walking or crawling, you can block everything that you can by dash blocking, but can also consistently block projectiles such as Mario's Fireballs, Samus's Super Missiles and Charge Shot, Pichu's Thunder Jolts, Wolf's Blaster, 2 Megaman Pellets, Wii Fit's Sun Salutation, Robin's Thunder and L Thunder, Ryu and Ken's Hadouken, Corrin's Dragon Fang Shot, Hero's Tier 1 and 2 Fireballs, either Banjo's First Egg or 2 Rapid Fire Eggs, and lastly Byleth's Arrows. And keep in mind that these same projectiles can also be blocked while standing, so as long as you're still facing your opponent, you can stop moving toward them around mid-range so you can react to what they'll do next and punish them if they use their projectile. If the projectile you're dealing with is unable to be blocked with Luma, it's generally best to avoid it altogether by jumping over it or dashing around it. Just keep in mind that when jumping over projectiles, it's almost always best to face away from your opponent so you'll still have access to back air. If you're ever in the air and can't get out of the way of a clankable projectile, it's generally best to try and clank it with a nair. As for non-clankable projectiles, it's generally better to rely on gravitational pull for the times that you aren't able to get out of the way, but make sure you keep your distance before using it, as it could give them a free punish if you're too close. Keep in mind that when using gravitational pull, it's often best to input a turnaround gravitational pull. This way you can still lunar land with back air to catch them off guard if they try to punish you. This is also really effective against multiple projectiles, as you can grav pull the first one and lunar land with back air to clank with or block the second one. In general, shielding projectiles should only be used as a last resort, as many projectiles can hit Luma despite shielding, and if your shield is low enough, Luma will be completely exposed. Despite this, there are some matchup specific strategies where shielding can still prove to be useful, such as against Min. If you want to learn some useful strategies on how you can utilize shielding in that matchup, check out the link in the top right corner. With all those strategies in mind, here's a list of every projectile and the ways I'd recommend countering them while specifically around mid-range. Obviously, the way you deal with a projectile is always situational, but in general, methods such as Luma blocking should take priority when you're close enough to guarantee a punish. Feel free to pause the video if you want to look over this chart in more detail. The last type of projectiles we'll be looking at are items, which only really concern these matchups. Gravitational pull can give Rosalina a unique advantage over these characters, so it's important to know how to properly use their items against them. For items with a time limit, such as bombs and grenades, note that gravitational pull will slightly extend their duration, allowing you to always pull them in safely. Keep in mind that Snake's grenades have a 2-second timer, which gets extended about 1 second with gravitational pull. And after you pick up a grenade, it's often best to try to wait until it's about to explode before throwing it. Keep in mind that both Young Link and Toon Link's bombs will bounce off shields, giving an opportunity to pull them in after shielding, or when throwing them at your opponent's shield to re-catch them. Note that this isn't the case with Banjo's grenades or Bowser Jr.'s Mecha Koopa, which both explode on shield and can hit Luma. As for Link's remote bomb, you should almost never use gravitational pull while near it, as it can be detonated while traveling toward you. Also, because it's able to hit Luma through your shield, you should basically always try to keep your distance from it and move around it. If you do manage to pick it up, it's often best to throw it off stage, or at least throw it to a part of the stage where there isn't any action happening. As for items that don't have a time limit, it's often a good idea to hold on to them and wait for a clear opening. One way you can create openings is by sending Luma out and provoking them with star bits. Then when they try to jump over Luma, you can hit them or at least force them to jump or air dodge. Another advantage to holding an item is that you can easily punish your opponent for hitting Luma while detethered. Against characters who are limited to having a single item, holding onto their item can be especially useful as it denies them part of their neutral game. And around mid-range, it could be a good idea to throw an item upward and stand behind it, as it could provide a hitbox for insurance if they decide to approach, while still giving you the opportunity to pick it back up with gravitational pull if they don't. When close by, remember you can still use aerials and even lunar land by Z-dropping an item, then quickly inputting an aerial. Keep in mind that if you land a hit with a late nair while holding an item, you can Z-drop it in your opponent's hurt box, then re-catch it with an aerial for some extra damage. With these strategies in mind, we'll look at some unique attributes of items. When thrown from the ground, Peach's turnips can be blocked by Luma while walking. When shielded, they disappear, but on hit, they bounce and can be re-grabbed. You can even grab them after being hit while below certain percentages, which for regular turnips is around 72%. Note that if a turnip touches the floor, it'll disappear despite being affected by gravitational pull. Stitch Face and Dot Eye turnips can do tons of damage, but normal turnips can give consistent follow-up potential when hitting grounded opponents up to 127%. Next we have Rob's gyro, which surprisingly can't be walk blocked by Luma due to Rob's throw height. However, at mid-range you can crawl under a thrown gyro. If Rob launches the gyro, note that on Luma hit it'll pop up and hit Rosa too. However, it's possible to catch it before getting hit when standing still or moving slowly, but requires tight timing. Like Peach's turnips, a gyro will disappear when it comes in contact with a shield, but will bounce up and away on hit. Note that you can pull a gyro back in after being hit as long as you're below the minimum knockdown percentage of 35%. Likewise, you can confirm a hit into a grab while Rob is below knockdown percentages. Due to the gyro's floaty physics, it could be extra useful to throw it upwards to deny Rob access to it for a considerable amount of time, and it can be easily re-caught with gravitational pull on its way down. Next we have Diddy Kong's bananas. Like Rob's gyro, these can't be blocked by Luma while walking at full speed. However, when walking slowly or crawling, you'll be safe from bananas when thrown from the ground. If a banana's shielded, it'll pop up, allowing you to jump out of shield to grab it. Bananas only deal 4.5% on hit, but will trip grounded opponents, leaving them open for a punish or at least a tech chase. If you're able to react quickly enough, you can confirm into a DAC grab. Or if Diddy is at a high percentage, you can confirm into a DAC nair to kill. Also, note that throwing a banana is a frame 8 out of shield option, and if you're close enough to your opponent, you can confirm into a forward smash. Because bananas only trip grounded opponents, you should generally try to hold it until you see an opportunity to punish a landing or a whiffed attack. Next we have Rool's crown, which can be pulled in with gravitational pull anytime earlier than this frame. Keep in mind that the crown doesn't disappear on shield hit, allowing you to steal it with gravitational pull even after you shield it. This property also allows you to pull the crown back right after throwing it at Rool's shield, making it very useful to use at close ranges. Using the crown at close range also allows you to hit confirm into grabs while Rool is under his minimum knockdown percentage of 40%. Next we have Pac Man's fruit, and for those of you who aren't familiar with each one, the cherry is the weakest and has short range and bounces. The strawberry is very similar to the cherry but with slightly more range and damage. The orange has even more range and damage and will always travel in a straight line. The apple bounces and travels quickly at a very low angle with strong upwards knockback. The melon also bounces but travels very slowly and has very floaty physics. The Galaga item flies in a circle, then straightens out at an angle, potentially hitting an opponent twice. The bell travels diagonally upward, then straight down and stuns any opponents it collides with, allowing for a punish. And lastly, the key travels very quickly, hits hard, and deals good damage. It's important to keep in mind that after Pac Man throws a fruit, it can only be picked up one time before disappearing. Next we have Megaman's Metal Blade. Keep in mind that this item always travels in a straight path regardless of hitting Rosa or Luma. If Megaman throws the Metal Blade specifically as a special, shielding it will cause it to land on the ground for you to pick up, and if this item ever hits you or your shield from mid-range or closer, note that you're still able to pull it in with gravitational pull. Just note that this won't work if he's holding the Metal Blade before throwing it. Also, keep in mind that when you have this item in hand, you can hit Megaman while he's under 107% to confirm into a grab when nearby. The last item we'll be looking at is Simon and Richter's Holy Water. This item has physics that make it feel much heavier than other items, so it has decently short range unless thrown from high up. Like K. Rool's crown, Holy Water will bounce off shields, allowing you to re-grab it with gravitational pull. This makes it extra useful when used at close ranges. If you ever hit them with this, you can deal a ton of damage by using a close range Dak Nair, or get the kill with a smash attack. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like for the algorithm, and be sure to check out my Rosalina playlist by clicking here. Also, huge thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.